Thanks for joining us for Raceway Ministries today. In just a moment, we'll be sharing with you the latest in what's going on in the world of Christian ministry and outreach through the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. Well, this is Roger Marsh with the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and we would like to welcome you to this edition of Raceway Ministries Today. This is our 20th podcast for the year 2021. And the podcast, Raceway Ministries Today, basically serves as our podcast platform for the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. If you need to know more about the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, you can find out information at racewayministries.org, or you can follow us on Facebook at National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, and then our YouTube channel goes by that same name. We have numerous podcasts there that you can listen to at your leisure, and from time to time we put up a video or two and have other information there on the YouTube channel as well. But this evening for Raceway Ministries Today, I am so excited to have Tim Bozarth with us. Tim grew up in Illinois. He resides in the St. Louis area with his wife Becky. Professionally, Tim works as an electrical avionics engineer. Tim has been involved in church just about all of his life. His father was a pastor. Tim himself spent 2 summers working at Ridgecrest Baptist Conference Center, and he currently serves in his local church as a deacon and performs many other duties and works in many other capacities in his local church as well. Tim got involved in Raceway Ministries work some time back, and he currently is involved in a chaplain at some of the local racing venues there in his part of Illinois and Missouri. Another thing is we're looking forward to working together soon to get some ministry started at World Wide Technology Raceway there in the St. Louis area. Many of you may know that raceway is Gateway International, but it changed names not too long ago, and they continue to race hard there at World Wide Technology Raceway. So Tim and I are going to be investigating some possibilities for Raceway Ministries there at World Wide Technology Raceway. Now, Tim, you've been involved in Raceway Ministries work for quite a while, and I've just got to say thank you so much for joining us for the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to hearing about how God has been at work through you in your part of the country, and looking forward to working together on this project up there in East St. Louis at World Wide Technology Raceway. And I just want to say welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you very much, Roger. And, I'm absolutely looking forward to working with you as well and getting our foot back in the door over at what I still like to refer to as Gateway, but Worldwide Technology Raceway.
I just know it as Gateway, and anytime somebody mentions it, I just call it Gateway. I guess one of these days we'll maybe break away from that, but yeah.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to getting involved in that projects for sure. For starters, tell us a little bit about your work as an avionics engineer. I used to do machine shop work for subcontractors for Bell Helicopter and all that kind of thing, so I'm somewhat familiar with it. What in the world is an avionics engineer? What all does that entail, and what do you do?
Well, avionics is basically defined as aviation electronics,
okay.
And I develop systems that go on to fighter aircraft. I've been involved in this industry for about 33 years and
wow.
working for McDonnell Douglas / Boeing for 25 years now, and working mission computers, displays, recorders, and even done a little bit in communications areas. But basically the electronics that allows for the aircraft to accomplish its mission, that's one of the items that I work in.
With all the advanced technology nowadays, that's got to be fascinating and interesting work.
It continues to change on a yearly basis. I worked on a mission computer back in the early 2000s, and within about 6-7 years after it had been deployed, it was already to the point of being almost obsolete, and we had to start work on a new development. So,
wow.
Yeah, it changes quite drastically on a regular basis.
I'm sure. Well, no telling what the future holds, but it sounds like like you're going to be right in the middle of it as things move forward. Now, obviously, your walk with Christ and your involvement in church work is and has been a huge part of your life. How did all that get started? Obviously, your father being a pastor, you probably grew up with some pretty strong Christian influence, but how did your personal relationship with Christ begin, and how has that had an impact on all aspects of your life? Obviously, your work at Ridgecrest Baptist Conference Center reflects the fact that you've been serving the Lord for a long time. How did it all get started?
Well, it got started by me being in preschool. I truly don't remember a time when I wasn't in church.
Okay.
My dad was pastor of a small town church. Actually, I was born while he was doing interim work at that particular church, and later they called him to the church to be their full-time pastor. So I was fortunate enough as a Southern Baptist preacher's kid to truly grow up in church, and all the way from being born to off to college.
Wow, how about that?
I was saved at the age of 6 at a revival where an ex-wrestler named Tommy Phelps was the evangelist.
Okay.
And of course, at the age of 6, you don't have a lot of life-changing, or hope you don't have a lot of life-changing experience that takes place.
Yeah, sure.
Other than what's taking place within the heart.
Sure.
But as growing up through youth, really started to walk regularly with God, developing service skills, started running sound for our church when I was about 13.
Oh my goodness, wow.
Yeah, so, and then of course into college, that continued, and during college is when I worked at Ridgecrest and ultimately met my wife, Becky, at Ridgecrest.
Okay.
So it's been a life of service that started very young.
Well, not everybody has that kind of a story. A lot of people, they meet the Lord later in life, sometimes after they've been through lots of trauma and lots of trouble and lots of problems and lots of sin. But on the other hand, sometimes God takes a young child and molds them and shapes them through their childhood years, their teen years, and through their young adult years, and has them prepared in special ways to do some very special things. So I don't count out either type of experience at all. And I got to tell you, I'm very grateful for your family and for their nurturing you and introducing you to the Lord and helping you to grow as you moved along through your youth. So hats off to your mom and dad, hats off to your family and the churches that influenced you as you grew up. Well, now, lots of different kinds of experiences in your life. Running sound at the age of 13, I guess you were very familiar with worship and what's entailed in some of that. Working at Ridgecrest Baptist Conference Center, I'm sure there were lots of youth camps that were going on at that place, and so you've had a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of ministry, currently serving as a deacon in your local church, along with many other responsibilities that come your way. I can't think of anything more exciting to have a deacon involved in than racing. The typical Baptist church deacon may think that racing is something a little bit, off the map in terms of ministry opportunity, but God has arranged to put you in the middle of that. So how did you get involved in racing? I know you mentioned to me earlier you were a casual race fan at one time, but obviously that escalated at some point. So how did you become a race fan, and then how did that evolve into full participation in the sport, even as a chaplain?
Well, oddly enough, I still consider myself a casual race.
Okay.
I'm a casual race fan that is absolutely committed to the racing community.
There you go. Good.
And so from that perspective, if I wasn't involved in Raceway Ministries and as a chaplain, I would probably be going to races once, 2, 3, 4 times a year.
Okay. Yeah.
Versus what I do now is anywhere from 30 to sometimes up to 40 or 50 times a year.
Wow.
My father, he watched racing on TV. That was pretty much my experience of racing growing up. And after college, we moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And there's a great racetrack just north of Milwaukee called Slinger Speedway.
Okay.
And Slinger Speedway is a high bank, quarter-mile oval track that's very well known, very well attended.
Yes.
And I would go there, again, 3 or 4 times a year, and I would see the mass of people, and there was something burning in my heart then about the mass of people that was at the racetrack.
Wow.
I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know anything about chaplaincy. I didn't know, anything. There was just something about that mass of people that were there.
Sure.
Then I moved to St. Louis, and in 2003, what was Gateway International Raceway, World Wide Technology Raceway, had a Christian Family Day event, and our church was heavily involved in that.
Oh.
They accomplished that for several years,
Yes.
and our church, again, was heavily involved during that entire time. Through that, I met Greg Dessard, and I know you know Greg.
Yes.
Greg served in this area for a long time.
Yes, he did.
In Chaplain, so he did a tremendous job organizing it. He unfortunately, due to health issues, has no longer been able to continue, but he introduced me to the dirt track scene in St. Louis.
Okay.
And through him, I started to get involved in the dirt tracks, serving as chaplain, and basically spending my Friday and Saturday nights 6 months a year at one of 2 dirt tracks here in the area.
Wow. You went from being a casual race fan to jumping in with both feet, and that's quite a jump. But, one thing that kind of gets my attention in what you have shared so far is everything changes when you have a purpose in it, and especially when you have a purpose of loving on people, sharing the gospel, having a goal of introducing people to the Savior, changes the entire perspective and can turn a casual race fan into a serious Raceway minister real quick.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like you had some good influence back when Greg was very, very active. Gosh, what a ball of energy in terms of outreach, and especially when it comes to the racing community, had an intense interest in that. And I'm so thankful for him introducing you to it. Now, for the benefit of some of our people that might be listening to the podcast and they're wondering, how in the world can I get started in Raceway Ministries? I want to. There's local tracks around where I live. What are some of the building blocks? What are some of the starting points? What do I need to do if I have this desire and I want to get involved? Based on your experience, Tim, what kind of counsel would you give to that kind of a person?
Well, I would first start with what's your desire here? What is it that you're really wanting to do?
Yeah.
And part of that is that I've met many individuals that have really started to wanting to get involved in this, and I think they're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Okay.
They see something that is attractive to them, but not necessarily being truly called by God. One of the questions that I always ask any individual that's wanting to get involved in our ministry is, if I spoke with your pastor, would he support you being involved in this ministry?
Ah, okay.
And I say that for a couple of reasons. Number one is that an individual needs to have a firm foundation within a local church.
Oh, amen to that, yes.
In working at these tracks, specifically as a chaplain, you don't want to be called lone wolf, but on the other hand, you are truly out there by yourself for the most part.
Yeah, that's true.
And hence, you need to be able to have a good, firm foundation. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The other reason why I ask that same question is that it makes the individual think to themselves, what am I doing this for? Am I really doing this as a ministry to individuals, or am I doing this for selfish reasons? And so that's the first question I always ask individuals as they are looking at maybe getting involved.
Yeah. Let me stop you right there, because I think your point is well taken on both accounts. I am a firm believer that Raceway Ministries needs to be tied to the local church. For the reason that you mentioned, there needs to be a solid foundation. There needs to be a church family behind this. It always helps if there's a supportive pastor who is there to catch you when you fall, pray with you when you need that, and that kind of thing. But the other thing is, you have to ask the hard questions. And many, many times we don't challenge people with the hard questions, like, why do you want to do this? What's your motive? Mm-hmm. That really pins a person down. And I'm so appreciative that you have mentioned that, because a person that's thinking about getting into it needs to come to terms with that very question. Why do I want to do this? So your point's well taken, Tim. Good observation.
But then, assuming that the individual is truly doing this for the right reasons, wants to get involved, I think back to Slinger when I was attending up there occasionally. There was a sense of ignorance in my heart. I had no clue what would even be possible.
Yes.
And so getting involved with regional individuals that are involved that can help you out and get you started.
Okay.
And then develop the relationship with the promoter.
Yes.
One of the things you have to recognize is you're walking on somebody else's property.
Boy, that's so true. Yes.
And they need to be able to trust you. So those are some of the key things that I would take away, is that, hey, make sure you have contacted with the promoter, that they are trusting you at that point. And then find individuals that can support you that have been doing this. It may be 2 hours away. It may be 3 hours away. There are individuals somewhere in your region that are doing this type of work.
Wow. Man, those are good points. Excellent, excellent stuff, Tim. Boy, if anybody will take that kind of stuff seriously, I think they can get off to a good start in doing ministry at some raceway somewhere. So great stuff. Now, another challenge that might come to a person interested in Raceway Ministries work may be the sheer workload. Now, it sounds like you spend lots of Friday and Saturday nights at the track. I mean, you mentioned at least 30, sometimes up to 50 race events per year. I mean, you sit down there and map that out on the calendar. That's a lot of work. So it might be helpful for someone to hear you describe when you engage in that work on those Friday and Saturday nights. How much time does it take? What do you do when you're there? How do you get ready for it? And how do you handle the workload? And you might mention the raceways where you currently work and what your role is at those speedways.
So you don't have to be as crazy as I am. That's the first thing.
Okay.
But again, when individuals, especially with the local racing, if individuals are wanting to be involved, one of the things I say, come along and shadow us, see what we're doing.
Yeah.
And currently we've got 3 different chaplains, and all 3 of us approach it completely different.
That's okay.
Absolutely it is. But I say, come along, shadow us, see what we're doing. But if you want to step into this, I want a 2-year commitment, because it'll take you 2 years to start to get the local racer to trust you, to recognize who you are, and to open up to you.
Boy, what a great observation. Wow.
And so I asked for 2 years of commitment. Now, it doesn't have to be 2 years of a Friday and Saturday night, but it needs to be a commitment that people are going to regularly see you there, because our ministry, at least at the local tracks, is a ministry of presence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, that's the first and foremost. Currently, we've got ministries at 3 different tracks.
Okay.
But I've developed relationships with promoters at about 7 or 8 different tracks in our local area. I-55 Raceway, or Federated Auto Parts Raceway in Peebly, Missouri. That's on Saturday night. Okay. I'm there every Saturday night and actually do a little bit of the announcing there.
Oh, wow. Cool.
We also at Tri-City Speedway in Grant City, Illinois.
Okay.
That's a Friday night track. We've got work going at Highland, Illinois, at Highland Speedway, another dirt track.
Okay. Wow.
And then there's another track that currently is closed since COVID, but they are looking to try to open back up, and that is Belclair Speedway.
Okay.
And then there are several other tracks that, again, I've made sure I've developed relationships with these promoters, and I try to get to most of the tracks in our region at least once a year, and just touching base with the promoters and recognizing that, hey, if I find somebody that I can put into a location that is from that area, I have a head start for that person. So I try to keep those relationships built.
Yes, that is an awesome approach to take. I like it a lot because you mentioned an important word a few minutes ago, and that is trust. If these guys don't trust you, they're not going to have much use for you there from week to week. And if you get a head start on building trust with some of these promoters and track owners and managers and so forth, then that would just be a golden highway for somebody to walk into with a little bit of trust already built. Man, I love your approach. That sounds awesome. Now, I have to ask you this. You mentioned 4 or 5 raceways here, and there are 3 of you, I think you said, that are on your Chaplain team. Now, are all of these raceways weekly racing, or are some of them just special events only? And how do you 3 guys try to cover all of this? Obviously, all of you can't be everywhere all at once. So it may be, like you said, you go to one raceway only a few times a year just to keep the relationship going. How does all that work?
Well, the 3 primary tracks that we are currently at, we have somebody there every time they race, which is on a weekly basis.
Okay, all right.
So, Highland, I have an individual that's dedicated to Highland. I'm dedicated to Peebly. Those are both on Saturday nights. And then we kind of swap in and out at Tri-City Speedway as required. And then Belclair, if they get back up and running, I usually will be at Belclair on Friday nights. So we kind of just try to spread the workload out and get as much done as we can.
Now, what kind of duties do you perform at these tracks when you're there? I know different chaplains have different things that they do at different speedways. I'm always amazed at the diversity and the variety. There's some common elements, leading the invocation, saying prayers with the drivers and some of that. What are some of the duties that you and your team perform at these tracks?
So Quay, which is one of our chaplains, he hits, I would say, at least half the haulers and does a prayer with them.
Good, okay.
We usually try to get there a couple hours before the drivers' meeting. And, I try to do much more on the relationship side, building relationships with individuals.
Okay.
One of the things that I've been able to do is by building those relationships, I have a few individuals out there that have their ear to the ground in the community, and again, pre-COVID would let me know when anybody was in the hospital so that I could respond accordingly, within the region.
Yeah.
And so it allowed me to, minister at the hospitals and such. And it's amazing how much that impacts individuals.
Yes, you're right.
Just, I've got a family member that's sick, and all of a sudden the chaplain from the racetrack shows up.
Yeah, that's huge. What have you discovered to be the best methods and the most effective methods for ministry at the speedways? Again, a lot of people do it different ways. Some are very aggressive. Some build relationships slowly. Some people just begin with prayer with a person. Other people set up a tent and they hand out literature. What have you discovered to be some of the best approaches and methods for ministry at the venues where you go?
I think all of those things that you just mentioned are great. And we've done all of those, setting up tents, handing out literature, even at the local venues. We've done that not on a weekly basis, but we would do it once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Right now, we're down to the point where it's difficult to accomplish that just because of our current numbers.
Uh-huh.
But going by Christian bookstores and going through their discount literature area is a great way to stock up on literature.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We've also set up bounce houses, and we've set up slot car track or different things, and just to attract kids, and then usually have literature to hand out. Again, a lot of it just is building relationships over time.
Well, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and of course, that's one of the drums that we've been beating forever in Raceway Ministries work. It's all about relationships, and if handing out literature can contribute to building a relationship, if asking somebody if they have a prayer request, if having a children's event, a jump house or a Pinewood Derby race or a slot car race or whatever, anything that can help build relationships, I think, contributes to the overall process of being able to get into a person's heart and eventually share the gospel with them. So from what I hear you saying, it's any and everything, whatever works, whatever can contribute to the relationship building. Now, you mentioned World Wide Technology Raceway, and I want to bring this back into our conversation because I remember not too long ago, the schedule came out for NASCAR for next year, and it was an eye-opener for me whenever I saw World Wide Technology on there for the Cup Series. The Truck Series has raced there. I've been there several times for what was the Nationwide Series races a few years ago, and it's a great venue. The racing is good. I mean, gosh, when I was there at one time, I think it was Carl Edwards, and I can't remember who else it was. They banged fenders for 20 laps at the end of an Xfinity or a Nationwide Series race, and it was great racing. The crowd was on their feet. The place was packed. It's been good racing for Indy cars. It's been good racing for a long time. So I was excited to see the Cup Series headed that way. And of course, it wasn't too long after that schedule came out that you contacted me and asked, what's going on up there? And, the answer to that is currently we don't have anything going on up there. And I am very, very excited about getting something going. Let me ask you a couple of questions about that. Give us a little bit of the flavor of the local public or culture there in terms of Worldwide Technology Raceway. Is it supported by the public? Are they excited about racing? They're excited about the Cup Series heading there? What's the tone around the area there about Worldwide Technology Raceway? And even with the transition from Gateway to Worldwide Technology, obviously a change of sponsorship, probably a change of staff. Has all that gone smoothly? Is the current Raceway management and their events being well received by the public? What's the tone there in the area?
Well, first you have to realize that St. Louis region is a big racing community. I've got about 8 or 9 racetracks that run late models or 410 sprint cars or, good sized cars. Mm-hmm. I've got 8 or 9 of those within an hour and a half of my house.
Wow.
Now, that being said, from a media perspective, racing is almost completely ignored because this is a baseball town.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But from the grassroots perspective, people are excited about having a cup race here.
Good.
We've been looking for it for years. So, yeah, everybody's excited about it. And, the management there that took over from Dover, they bought the place from Dover several years ago.
Okay.
And they have just really turned that place around, invested into it. And, of course, NHRA drag race, they wanted to get that doors open as quickly as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is a huge drag race event that takes place there. So yeah, there's a lot of racing in St. Louis. There's a big underground community of racing that's almost not even really underground, other than the fact that, again, the media doesn't necessarily follow it.
Yeah, well, racing's been popular around there for a long time. I mean, the Wallace guys, Rusty and Kenny and them are from that area. And so there's been a lot of racing heritage there, which, in light of the St. Louis Cardinals and the baseball thing, racing's been around there for a long time, so it's nothing new.
Right.
But it is kind of exciting whenever a place like Gateway suddenly is remodeled and revamped and now under new ownership, and here comes the Cup Series.
Yep.
It's interesting that you mentioned Dover Motorsports, because Dover Motorsports owns Nashville, and that place just reopened this year after being closed for 10 years. And we went up there and started a new group there at the Nashville Super Speedway. And I got to tell you, that was the most electric, excited atmosphere I've been around at a NASCAR race in a long time, because the Cup Series was finally there. The Speedway was excited. The public was excited, and it was an exciting weekend. And I anticipate the same kind of thing for World Wide Technology. I think it's just going to be an exciting time.
And Gateway, or World Wide Technology Center, is a great track, like you said, and it's very similar to Darlington, but probably even more egg-shaped.
Yep.
And maybe not quite as banked, because it was actually originally designed for Indy cars.
Right.
But it has that egg shape, so cars can never be great on both ends.
Yep.
And so you just see some tremendous racing taking place.
Crew chiefs and crews got to be on their game when they get there.
Right.
Kind of build the plane while they fly it as the race goes on. So it'll be good. I tell you, I am so excited about it. Now, as far as ministry goes there, what are your current thoughts about inroads into the Speedway? I think our connections with Dover Motorsports that we were able to build at Nashville last summer may help us to bridge over into World Wide Technology Raceway. Also have some friends that are currently a part of the Windy City Raceway Ministries group up in Chicago that I've heard from, and they apparently have some knowledge of some of the staff or some of the workers there. I think we might have several opportunities to engage there, but what kind of connections are you looking at right now at Worldwide Technology? And from your perspective, being local there, what do you think are the best means and methods to approach that place and to begin to get into what they're planning for next year?
Well, that leads me to the primary reason I called you immediately upon me learning about the schedule as well.
Uh-huh.
And that was, I didn't want to have a bunch of us falling over ourselves trying to get in there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And approach the track with a consolidated approach. And so that's one reason why I reached out to you immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I was certain that there would be other individuals that would be wanting to be involved, which is great, but I just want to make sure that we had a consolidated effort in that manner. And I can tell you that, there are churches in the area that are excited about the idea of being involved in this as well. So I'm confident we can put on a wonderful support event around the big event of the race.
I have no doubt about that myself. And I got to tell you, Tim, I really appreciate your approach and your idea. The last thing that's needed is for 50 different groups or 50 different individuals to start hammering on that place saying, we want in. A singular effort, I think, is going to be one of the keys here. And so, from my perspective, with the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, our approach is going to be, I think, from two different directions. One is, having had great experiences this past summer with Dover Motorsports over at Nashville, I think I can approach the staff there at Worldwide Technology and refer back to some of our experiences there at Nashville Super Speedway and with Dover Motorsports and maybe build a bridge there. In addition to that, I have some contact information from 3 or 4 different people, some of them the Windy City Raceway Ministries people that I mentioned from Chicago. And my next step will probably be to send out a group email to everyone and let them know what the possibilities are and encourage everyone to jump on board with a single stroke effort to get involved as a group. And then what I would love to do is come up to St. Louis and meet with you and meet with the local leader of your Baptist Association, whom I believe you mentioned to me is very, very interested in racing, and many churches are interested in getting involved. I'd love to meet together and then see if any of these other folks from the Chicago area would like to meet with us as well, to just make sure that we're all on the same page and all pulling on the same rope. And I think we'll be able to get something going, and I think it'll be good. I think if we start soon, we'll have time to kind of get it together and blend in our efforts with the programming of the people there at World Wide Technology before race season gets started next year, and then as we approach their first event. So I'm really, really excited about it. Very interested in having you be a big part of the leadership there to get that ministry going. And of course, what we'll need to do is see how that intertwines and interfaces with you and your local track stuff and all that kind of thing. But it sounds like you have some great connections down there in that area. And after all, you're right there. So I can't tell you how excited I am about it. I hope you're excited about it as well.
Oh, absolutely. And one wonderful thing is they're going to be racing on a Sunday, so we don't have local tracks that run on Sunday. So
hey, good deal.
I'm free already.
Good deal. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. It might be a busy weekend for you. You might be at the local track on Friday and Saturday and then have to be out at World Wide Technology on Sunday, but you can sleep on Monday, right?
That's exactly right. There's I can always take a vacation day before and after, and we'll be just fine.
Oh, bless your heart. I got to appreciate your passion, man. That is awesome. Well, listen, as we begin to wrap things up, if somebody was to approach you and they were interested in getting started either at one of the local tracks or there at Worldwide Technology, you've already referred to a couple of things, but what would be 2 or 3 bits of advice or counsel that you would give them beyond the things that you've already shared?
I would say that just recognize that whether this is a big event or a small event, ultimately this is missions over evangelism.
Yeah, good.
And we might have the great opportunity of doing a Sunday service over at the Worldwide Technology Center on that Sunday morning, for the campers that are there.
Uh-huh.
And so there's going to be evangelism as part of it. But the reality is the bulk of what we're going to be doing is mission oriented.
Yes.
And recognizing that it is our presence at the racetrack, whether it's a local event or a major event, our presence and individuals seeing God through us is our primary goal. And through that, the hope is that God will be seen through us and that they will recognize that there is something missing in their life and they can come to a salvation experience through that process.
Boy, that's good stuff. That is really good stuff. One of the things we've learned with the new corporate structure that has emerged within the NASCAR venues is a lot of the ministry opportunity that we have in Raceway Ministries on the face looks like guest services.
Mm-hmm.
You may be operating an elevator, you may be parking cars, you may be staffing an information booth, you might be driving golf carts for disabled people, who knows what. But what you just said is exactly what we need to do. Anything we can do by being representatives of God and being present on the property is going to make a difference. That is huge. That is huge.
And one last thing that I'll say is, now this goes back to being a casual race fan.
Okay.
I don't look for the biggest race fans to be involved in my ministry. Part of the reason for that is that the individual that you cheer for today, it may be their nemesis that you're ministering to tomorrow.
That's true. That's true.
And so you have to be able to set aside your personal feelings towards a particular race and recognize that the greater good is the opportunity to share God.
Boy, that's exactly right. Yeah. Boy, good stuff. Good stuff. Great points, Tim. Well, listen, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate your thoughts and I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your love for what you do and just appreciate everything about you, Tim. I'm looking so forward to working with you in the days ahead. So any other thoughts you'd like to share before we go?
I don't believe so. This has been a great opportunity, and I really appreciate it's an opportunity to speak not just about what we currently have going, but the possibilities in the future.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, good stuff. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate you so much. I wish you and your wife, Becky, the best. Now, has your season ended yet there at your local tracks? Y'all got to be at the tail end of the season, if not already over.
Not quite. We've got a couple more weeks of activities at Tri-City Speedway over at Granite City, Missouri.
Okay.
And then in December, we have Dirt in December at the Dome at America Center downtown. Inside the Dome, they build a 1/5 of a mile dirt track, and they've got late models, modifieds, and midgets that run on a 1/5 of a mile dirt track inside the Dome in December.
Oh, man. Sound like the Chili Bowl doesn't have anything on you guys.
Yeah, so it's an amazing thing. It's a 3-day show inside, and it's a wonderful thing. And then we go into what I refer to as banquet season in January, and by March we're back into racing.
Okay, man, no rest for the weary. Wow, you guys are busy, busy, busy. Well, thank you, Tim. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Well, for everybody who is listening to our podcast today, we've been visiting with Tim Bozarth. Tim is a chaplain at several different local tracks up in the St. Louis area, and he's going to be working with us to get something going over at World Wide Technology Raceway, formerly known as Gateway, there in East St. Louis. So thank you for listening to the podcast. This is Raceway Ministries Today, and I'm Roger Marsh, the Executive Director of the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. You can pick up other podcasts at our YouTube channel. Goes by National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, and if you need other information, you can go to our website, racewayministries.org, where you also can donate to the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries if you feel so led. So thank you for joining us for the podcast today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Victory Lane after we all have an opportunity to run the road course of life. And of course, Victory Lane for us is possible because of our faith and trust in the Lord Jesus Christ. See you next time. We hope you'll tune in next time as we continue to explore Christian ministry and outreach in motorsports through the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. If you'd like to learn more about the National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries, visit our website at racewayministries.org. Follow us on Facebook under the name National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries. Check out our podcast and videos found on our National Fellowship of Raceway Ministries YouTube channel. Meanwhile, thanks for joining us for this presentation of Raceway Ministries Today.